Men, do you ever feel like you just can't get ahead? Like you're misunderstood? Like you have no one to talk to that truly hears you?
And women, are you often frustrated, hurt, and saddened in your relationships with the men in your life?
What if there were a community of like-minded men going through the same challenges that would support, hear, and understand what you're going through?
Working together in unison to create understanding, intimacy, and strong connections. That's the Way of the Illuminated Warrior.
Way of the Illuminated Warrior Talk Show is a forum of candid conversations for men and women about men. Being a man today is not always easy. Until now.
Welcome to the Way of the Illuminated Warrior Talk Show. Today's conversation is focused on a vital issue I believe most, if not all, can empathize with. If I could say empathize, yes. So we're going to be talking about our animal ally friends. The health, well-being, and humane treatment of animals, I believe, is a responsibility and does require advocacy if we are to protect and ensure our four-legged furry friends are not abused or worse. So my guest today is Nellie McKay, who is a passionate and proactive individual for promoting awareness in this area. Welcome to the show, Nellie.
Thank you, Waska, for having me.
Yeah, well, I'm happy to have you on and discuss what I know about you. So just as a little introduction to how we know each other, Nellie and I just recently worked together. She had employed me to help her edit a video that's focused on animal advocacy and protection and demonstrations and getting the word out and having people more aware. So let's go with that. Start there. Like, how did you get involved with this advocacy, and where did your passion for animals and protecting them come from?
Oh, I think it's very natural. I think children are born with empathy, and there may be some psychopaths, but most people just get their empathy either beaten out of them or lessened by culture.
Yeah, well, that's a pretty hardcore answer. There's definitely some psychopaths. There's a lot of psychopaths. Not to call anybody out, but I just remember that whole Michael Vick incident. I don't know if you remember, where he was abusive to dogs and fighting and making money off them and all. For me, I just always loved animals. I was a very shy little boy, and I actually even went to college for animal husbandry because I just loved horses. I just loved being around animals. So how far back can you remember? Because you referenced kids having empathy in your own life that you were involved with animals.
Oh, I guess you grow up with them, and you realize what you have in common, that you can both suffer, and you can both want company, and you can both want food, and it's good for children to be around animals, and there are wonderful programs to that effect. Like, there are ones now that have children, they practice reading to shelter animals who are in shelters. And it's good for the animals to have the company. It's good for the kids to have the animals and to have the chance to practice reading. It's such a wonderful program. And I think it's in hopefully a growing number of schools.
Yeah, I just had a flashback. So, I raised two kids way back when. They're in their mid to late 20s now. And so we had African leopard tortoises, gorgeous, that get quite large. So I brought them into school and just let them walk around the classroom while we were doing some reading and all. And the kids were not really focused on the reading at all. They're just watching. Their names were Dow and Beijing. So Dow and Beijing are just walking around the classroom, and the kids loved them. I mean, like you said, I think it's a natural response just to bond and empathize. Even kids are empathizing and just be with the animals, and connect with them. Yeah.
And you realize you're more powerful than them. And so then you have a choice, to treat them kindly and protect them, or to take advantage.
Yeah, that's such a great point. We do have a choice, and I think about that a lot. I started doing dog sitting and dog training. I mean, I've been dog training for quite a while, just because I've had dogs throughout my life, and saw the value of that, because I do believe most animals, dogs in particular, they love to make their owners happy. Like, I tell dog owners all the time, that your dogs are fairly easy to train. You guys, don't take this personal, people, but you guys are the ones that need to be trained. And they usually acknowledge that they don't follow the programs that they've been told or taught, because, oh, well, she's so cute. Yes, she's very cute, but she wants to please you. So you're giving her mixed signals here. So it is incumbent upon us to teach them just as you would teach a kid. Kids, kids test you, kids push you, kids, want to know where the boundaries are, and they're happiest, even though they may not seem that way, when they know what the parameters of, their being is. So same true with animals, So I think it is a choice, and it's really a big choice for us to protect them because they, for the most part, can't protect themselves. So it is up to us. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's even in religion. I mean, if in a lot of religions, you can take things maybe one way or another with a lot of things in religion. But I mean, in Christianity, there's the idea of God gave us dominion. Well, dominion could mean to be their protector as well as to exploit them. And just having recently, I was in Egypt, and there's there are wonderful animal advocates there who are often pointing to certain passages in the Quran that talk about protecting animals. That all religions, at one point or another, in their texts, they express mercy for animals and a responsibility towards their welfare.
Yeah. Well, I've had the conversation before. I'm interested in all cultures, all religions, all belief systems, and all. So there were people way back when called the Anunnaki, who were said to be highly intelligent. Okay, obviously something happened because they're extinct now, but they were supposedly, very large beings, highly intelligent, and the humans were possibly their source, kind of like the Matrix. We were like a slave race to a degree to them. I don't know if it's true or not, but it just gets me to think like, what if there were like palpably like some other creatures who were bigger than us, more powerful than us, and treated us the way we treat animals, insects, other things who we perceive as less than us. How would we like that? Do unto
I
others,
know.
right?
Yeah, for sure.
So let's talk a little bit about what you've been doing, because I know you've been, citing different, demonstrations, people around the world in all different countries that have been advocating for our furry friends. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. Well, just to speak to what you were saying, though, it's just treat others as you'd like to be treated. It's supposed to be the golden rule. I don't know where it all gets lost.
Yeah, it's got a little rust on it, but there's gold under there. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so I guess just with I've been an animal rights activist for my whole life, pretty much. So I guess just with these cat torture uh, gangs, and it's coming out of China, but it's participated in by people in other countries, because it's on the web. And in China, there are no animal cruelty laws, and also these websites are being allowed to carry torture, and torture is not free speech. So that does seem like something that the maybe the American government could do something about the social media that the problem when they have censorious powers is they tend to suppress dissident voices, and the worst stuff tends to continue. But you would think that getting rid of just the worst I've ever seen in my life. I can't even watch the footage and most of it, and I generally try to make myself watch footage from factory farms and animal experiments. But for this, it's unspeakable what's going on.
Yeah.
You'd think that's something everyone could agree on, and really pass legislation quite quickly to stop it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think most people could agree on it. And I think the media is very instrumental in swaying people one way or the other. And yeah, if people are not seeing the torture, literally torture, what's happening to these animals, which, I get it. You don't want to watch that. But it's happening, all around the world, whether it's, the Ukraine, Kosovo, Middle East, it's happening to human beings, and people are kind of in tune to that, I'll say. So it's the same thing with the, our animal allies. The same thing is happening, only they really do need our support, because otherwise they're vulnerable, and yeah, we love our pets. Well, we need to stand up and take care of them and advocate for them as well. And when you do see these videos, I've seen, more than I wish I ever saw, but it's horrible. It's horrific. I personally don't know how any, human being that's not a psychopath, or worse, can torture animals like that, and the different countries obviously have different rules. China's a dictatorship, so yeah, I mean, you have the wet markets where you could, we could argue that's where COVID and the bird flu and all these other things came from, because it's more important to them to harvest animals and really torture them for the benefit of, I don't even want to say wealthy people who want, certain delicacies. It's barbaric, it really is. I just, yeah. So, so it really is such an important issue. So we enjoy our pets. I believe, as I said in the beginning, it's a responsibility for us to keep our eyes open and to do something about it. We may not see it right under our noses, but it's happening all around the world.
Well, it really is, and so much of it comes down, to some of it comes down to when people have it so bad around the world, then animals are going to have it even worse. So
True.
we've got to lift each other up. I mean, there is there's so much desperation around the world. I do sometimes marvel that things aren't worse,
Hmm.
because money rules the world, and people live lives of misery. They're so desperate to get out of it that if you can profit from something, and people are profiting off of these videos, then you have to you have to get rid of that motive and that desperation. That would alleviate some of it.
Yeah. When the pandemic happened, there were more um, pets, dogs, cats, whatever, adopted because people were isolated and they needed some kind of contact. And I think people really saw, like, wow, whether they were pet owners or not, like the benefit of actually having an animal that loves you unconditionally, that's there for you, that's emotional support, whether it's designated as emotional support or not. Animals are, for the most part, emotional support. So we have a choice, hey, I look at it as a macro of what's going on in the world. So like you said, there's, surprised it's not worse. There are some horrific things going on, and human beings, the way we treat each other is pretty shameful, really. And I think that's indicative of the way we are treating the animals as well. So take this for what it's worth. Maybe if we treated the animals what some of us consider the lowest form, that they're doing these kind of things to animals, like maybe if we treated them like literally the way we want to be treated, it would translate into that microcosm, really affecting the whole big picture around the world. Treat the lowest, if you consider it the lowest form of being, what an ant, whatever it is, as as your equal, so to speak. Then I believe that the world would be a much more equitable and peaceful and loving place. I would think you would agree with that, right?
For sure. And to know that we're part of the ecosystem. And
Yeah,
that's how, isn't that what you have found in your work and your travels?
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think of so many different incidents. So I think of a story my mom used to tell. So I was probably 6, 7, 8 years old. I was walking home from school, and I remember this vividly. I mean, the details became more clear afterwards, but it was a German Shepherd that had just given birth, like soon, recently. Oh my God, cute little puppies. So, little Perry Finkelstein picked up a puppy and walked home with the little puppy. I didn't know what imminent danger I was potentially in. That German Shepherd could have ripped me apart. You don't take anybody's baby, right? I really fully believe that this dog felt my love and empathy and let me take that baby of hers, because otherwise, dog, she could have just jumped up and ripped my larynx out. But she felt, yeah, yeah. Of course, I got home. My mom's like, "Oh my God, where'd you get this puppy?" We brought it back, and the dog was just like, I could, it's crazy, but I was a little boy. I could see it in her eyes. She's like, "Thank you. You loved my puppy. You brought it back." And I really, I know this to be true, that animals have such a deep level of empathy. I remember my little Maltese. I was having a hard time. I was literally crying, and this dog just came up to me and comforted me. I mean, and I just so many stories I could think of in my own personal life, how these animals are so in tune and empathetic, and when you're open and aware of that, you see that. So that's what I was saying. That's the goal to me. That's the choice, and the what we can get from being allies and taking care of these creatures. Yeah.
God, yeah, they can teach us so much.
Oh gosh, yes.
And
That's
they can be like
such a good
us.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if nothing else, empathy they could teach us. So I had on a show a friend of mine not that long ago. She's been working with large draft horses, rescue horses that have been put out to pasture, so to speak. That they're not considered viable anymore, whether they were race horses or work horses that may have gone lame or old age, whatever it is. And she has had as many as like 35, 38 of these beautiful like Percherons and Clydesdales and these gorgeous horses that she keeps working because they that's part of their sacred calling. They want to be out there helping plow the land, whatever it is. It's not abuse. It's that's what they're made for. They're called beasts of burden, but they are animals that enjoy doing things. And one of the points you brought out, this is scientifically proven. It's tested that when they're maybe standing in a field, whatever, and they just look like they're vegging out, they're actually entered a state of gamma, which is like deeper than delta, beta, theta. They're in a state of gamma that they actually tested. They could, detect the gamma energies that these beautiful, beautiful, equine beings are putting out there that really, we would all aspire to be in that state, knowing how powerful and how in tune and how, just connective that state is. So, animals, I just see them as they're just so humble because I live in, the Carolinas where there's black bears all over the place, and they're friendly. Don't mess with their kids. But if they wanted to, it's like the movie Hitchcock movie, The Birds. These animals wanted to do us, and we'd have no chance other than obviously being like Rambo, So, I think there's a lot of obvious, teachings there for us if we choose to see them.
Oh yeah, and there's so many ways that we just have the same interest. It's not. I think it was Jeremy Bentham who said it's not. Can they think like us or can they speak like us? But can they suffer?
Mm, yeah,
To
yeah,
paraphrase.
and they suffer with a lot more grace than most humans, I think. Um,
Yeah, it's a rough old world without any more suffering imposed.
yeah, yeah. Well, we could at least help end the suffering if we so choose to with things we could do. So what would you like to share? Like, what can people do that's just accessible to help this cause?
Well, that's lovely. Well, the interview we worked on was with Nina Jekyll, who's president of LadyFreethinker.org. She's also its founder. So that's LadyFreethinker.org. They do a lot of great work on this issue and on others. And then Feline Guardians. .org. It's all about what is happening to these cats. FelineGuardians.org. And there are a number of other groups, but I mean those are two that I've been working with directly. And for the monkeys, actionforprimates.org. So
Mm,
those are the three that we worked on with that video. But it's just so obvious that if when people are cruel to animals, it often extends to people, and that you really need to care about everybody, all species, and the earth we all share if you're going to get anywhere.
yeah, absolutely agree with that. Yeah. So since you're doing this work, like what's the climate, so to speak? I mean, are things getting better or are people getting more aware? Is it getting worse? I mean, what's in your, opinion, experience, what's going on?
Well, I mean, let me ask you because you're very much. What do you think? Do you think the internet is mostly good or mostly bad? If you had a choice, would you do away with it?
Do away with what? Sorry.
The internet.
Oh, the internet. I was kind of resistant to it in the beginning, even though I'm like, been doing video production most of my life, so I'm involved in technology. There are the connectivity of it to connect people literally around the world and share, helpful, healthful information, I think is wonderful. And I think it's really disconnected a lot of people. You know, in the old days, we used to actually scribe letters on paper and take the time. And I think there's less intention. It's just so quick and easy to just boom, jump on the internet and like something and see something. And it's more. I'll say it's a little bit narcissistic to a degree. You know, we want people to see our stuff and like our stuff. And so would I do away with it? I think it would, going from being in a more expansive opportunity, it would close things up to get the good information out there as well. And it's the yin and the yang. There's great information being shared, and there's also videos, as you're saying, that are harming animals. So that's a kind of a loaded question, you know.
I know. Well, I don't know if have you read any books by Jerry Mander? Four Arguments for the Elimination of Television, or In the Absence of the Sacred?
I know of The Absence of the Sacred. I have not read it. So share a little bit. What's a takeaway from you?
Well, he grew up, I think he grew up in the 30s. He saw, was it the first World's Fair? And, it was the world of the future. And it was all that we weren't in nature anymore. We were looking at a screen of nature and the things of that description and inclination. And he saw that, when he was a kid, that the woods behind his house, that they slowly disappeared and they were filled in by developments, and that people used to sit on the porches. And then when TV came, everybody went in and just started staring at the TV. And then the TV became so important, and it became obviously such a potent means of propaganda, because a moving screen with sound, I mean, it bests even the newspapers that have always been used to sell propaganda. And so then every activist started trying to get on TV. And so they geared all their protest movements towards, how do we get that 1 or 2 minute clip on the nightly news? And then, of course, you see that with online. Everyone's kind of trying to go viral, or, you start behaving differently in response to the technology. And he has a whole list of things that one should ask before accepting any new technology. And they're all pretty great, because usually they're not asked. We're just hurled into this new world, and we don't ask about the downside. For the internet, yeah.
Well, we're doing this now, so we wouldn't be
know.
able to do this. So I hear you, though. I totally hear you, and I agree with that to a large degree. Being in media, and doing some, living in New York, so I was involved with broadcast television, so some major sporting news, all the events of the world that go around the world. And in the very beginning of my career, I saw how something that I shot, I videotaped, was edited, and I'm like, that's not what happened. That's not what she said. And I'm like, wow, how powerful it is for a storyteller to create whatever they want to create, and it's dangerous to a degree. Documentaries were just that. You're documenting. You're being as detached and uninfluencing as you possibly can. But that's not the story anymore. Now it's like, okay, how do we sensationalize this? How do we bend it to the way we want it to come out? And a lot of times it is, how do we profit from this? And that's not. It's forceful, it's not powerful, and it's not productive for human beings. It really isn't. But we are so used to that. We're so used to being inundated by the technology that's like marketing us all the time, right? I mean, you go on your feed and you look up one thing, next thing you know, you're being marketed those products like constantly. I mean, is that really what we want? I don't think so.
And even more, even if you say something, if we talk about something now, we'll start getting advertisements.
Yes.
It's so creepy. It's so dystopian. And we live in these glass houses where we could be being recorded. Anything could be overheard or seen if we have the camera around us. And we live in glass houses, but we're still so judgmental and eager to throw stones. And if something comes out about someone else, and it may be horrible, but you do have to look at yourself too. I mean, we have entered into this surveillance state because of the convenience and the addictive quality of the phones and there's a very necessary quality to them. Like, you want to be able to be contacted in an emergency, so you keep your phone around you all the time. Hence, anything can be overheard. And these used to be regarded as conspiracy theories that, oh, they're listening, oh, they're watching. No one's
They
saying
are.
that anymore. They know better.
Because we know they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Big Brother. But that started with the Patriot Act giving away our rights, and it's kind of almost like a given at this point. The Patriot Act is basically if the U.S. government wants to come into your house and seize all of your possessions, all of your assets, I don't even think they need probable cause. I mean, they could literally do it. There's nothing you could do about it. I mean, we do live in the land of the free and home of the brave, as long as you don't piss off the wrong people that are up high. And that's, anybody that's, rubbed the powers that be the wrong way knows it's to be true, and you can't fight it because they have ultimate power. So, do we conform? Do we stay under the radar? So what we're talking about here, the internet certainly gives them access to everything digitally. I mean, I've thought about that. Everything's digital. Our money's digital. Our assets are digital. Our identity is digital. I mean, boom, it's gone like that. If the right person knows how to do it, it's pretty scary. Personally, I don't worry about this stuff, but I totally see how it's very, very prominent, and it affects everything and everybody. Yeah. So getting back to the base of what we're talking about, having human and animal experiences, you can't compare that to being online. And hey, look, I love watching some amazing, great videos of animals just doing the most fun stuff. But when you're in a room with those animals and they're doing that fun stuff, to me, that just lights me up. That lights my heart up. So caring for these animals is it really is our responsibility, and it's a vital issue. Yeah.
God, yeah. And it is so important for any person, even if you're not an activist, to not want all our finances to be online or digital. That really is something everyone should want to fight against, because then you can be frozen. That can be taken away. And there's a beautiful sense of community between people when you're at least slightly off the grid. I know there's some lovely small businesses in Asheville. One was called Small Change,
Mhm.
and they're all very animal friendly. I went in there. I loved some of the posters, and they have a kind of a mission here. And when you're in places like that, if you can pay with cash, it's good for the business. It
Yeah.
doesn't always have to go through corporations or the government.
Well, and I think that's why, which really surprises me, I've had the situation a lot of times. No, we don't take cash. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, how do you not take cash? But I've had that a number of times. That I just grew up that way. My father always had the emergency 20 in his wallet, and it was just always cash. But you can't track cash. If it's all digital, everything's paper trail for everything, and and these are, like we were saying, these are not conspiracy theories. These are facts of how the world is working now. But I think people are so like numb to it, they don't even care that much. It's like, yeah, whatever. But things could switch very, very quickly, and too bad you weren't prepared, you didn't care, and now this is where we're at.
People, I think, always think they'll be the exception,
Yeah.
or if they just keep quiet, that it won't happen to them, and it's
Yeah.
no guarantee.
Well, especially here in America, we've been blessed for the most part. But if you travel anywhere around the world where it's not as abundant, I will say, as we are here. If you go to third world countries, which ironically, a lot of the third world countries, I mean, Costa Rica was, and I don't know if I consider that a third world country necessarily. I don't know if it is or it isn't, but they have the highest happiness indicator. They have no military. They're just happy people. And there's a lot of places like that. Places in Africa that they barely have clean water, but they're happy. They're involved in community. They're involved in doing things together. They're involved in taking care of each other. The family system is very important to them, and taking care of the animals. They live a kind of a sacred life, which I think is missing a lot of times in our culture today.
Yes, and you've spent time in Costa Rica.
Yeah. Hmm.
Wow, that's beautiful. Well, can I ask you what brought you there?
I actually bought property there, so I own property there. A client of mine had said she just bought some land there, and she talked about it. So I went there. There's a lot of expats there, but they're also they use the U.S. dollar. The healthcare system is great. Their motto is Pura Vida, means basically like pure life. Like it's kind of like Irene on in Jamaica. It's like no problem, man. Very, very laid back. Like it's all good. Everything's, and I love that. That's why I love living in Asheville. Very different from the vibe in New York. It's very chill. I mean, it's just to me, it's a lot healthier. I know it's healthier for me not to be all wound up all the time like I used to be,
Yeah.
So yeah, and Costa Rica, boy, there's talk about the animals there between the monkeys and the birds, and there's like I was told there's like 50 different species of hummingbirds, so it's rich with nature and beautiful creatures there as well. Yeah,
God, it sounds beautiful.
yeah.
That's like, I mean, it's so nice. I mean, it's so, yeah, when you go back to New York, how long can you take it for?
Well, New York has got a lot of animals, two-legged animals. If you get my meaning, I'm going back because it's my mom's 89th birthday. Honestly, I like New York a lot. I love the food. I don't miss it. I don't miss it at all. I feel like I'm on holiday living in Asheville because there's such lush nature here between the mountains and the waterways and the hiking and just being in nature. I mean, that's always been my temple, being in nature. So I'll be there for I think a week or 9 days, and it's about 7 days too long, Other than seeing my mom, and having some pizza and bagels, and seeing some friends. I can't wait to get back here, I just feel safer here. I feel more alive, here. And it's super dog and cat friendly in Asheville. Everybody's got a dog, which I love. And it's interesting because where I used to live, a community with a couple hundred people, I would say to people like, oh, hi, Luna. Like, sorry, I don't remember your name. I don't remember the owners' names, but I remember all the dogs' names in the dog park. Um, yeah. So,
Yeah, yeah, that's the right way around, I think.
yeah. So, what would you say like is your biggest takeaway from doing this work, both with human beings and animals, and seeing how, human beings and animals respond to this compassionate work? What would you say?
Well, I guess you're just up against, a propaganda that comes in from all different directions, and it's from childhood. It's not just propaganda; it's also tradition. As George Bernard Shaw once said, that tradition will accustom people to any atrocity, and so you fight the momentum of convention, and also a sense of comfort that you get from uh, carrying something on, or the sense of comfort you get from the familiar. So but I mean, more and more people, um, they do seem, there are more and more people now that identify, say, as vegan or vegetarian or plant-based, and that's so important, not just for the animals, but for the people who live near factory farms, that work on factory farms. There's terrible pollution. It's good for people. The health. Our bodies are more naturally herbivorous. I believe that's a word. We're now more naturally herbivores, and it's it. If you look at what we do to the earth and how many resources we consume to make animal products as opposed to eating lower down the food chain, eating plants. It's the obvious thing to do, but there is a resistance to it, and some of that is cultural, and it can be tied in with ideas of what it is to be a man, or and it's funny that some products that are the product of violence, that they can seem beautiful to us, that they can seem to they mean love to us, and that could be a fur coat or a diamond ring, or beef lasagna. So there's a lot you're going up against, but there's also, I believe there's an idea of supremacy that we want to hold on to, because it is so much easier now to get off the animal products, and that seems to be the root of how we treat them. Is that it's the eating, and from all that come our other forms of exploiting them. But it's like we want to hold on to being superior, and somehow we need to get past that and see that we're all in this together.
Not to bash the patriarchy, but that is a yang. That is a, like you said, it's not a macho. It's not, men want to eat their beef, and I'm not saying this is a blanket statement, and I'm not bashing men. And the patriarchy has dominated for a very, very, very long time. I used to have this conversation with a dear friend. She passed, Joanne Shenandoah. She's the Iroquois Seneca Nation, gorgeous voice, singer songwriter. Like in their tradition, it's matriarchal. So if the women were actually making the decisions about, we'll say, going to war, like she said, the clan mother, yeah, she might determine it's necessary to protect our children, to protect our elders, to protect what we need to protect. We have to fight, and that's like the last resort. That's like the tenet of a good martial arts teaching. Fighting is the last resort. We go to war like on a regular basis because it benefits the wealthy, and their children are not going to fight. These senators, these politicians who have the power, they don't send their kids to do it because they know it's like, this is freaking crazy. But look at what I'm going to get out of this. I'm going to get a new house. I'm going to get a new boat. And that's really is that whole might is right paradigm of the wealthy patriarchy in this country and around the world to a degree. I mean, we have so many resources available to us. We desecrate the earth. We destroy resources in the name of whatever we want to call it. But really, it's the benefit and sometimes even I think more than just money. It's like you were saying before. It's that power. It's maintaining that, like, yes, I'm a man and I'm controlling and I'm dominating. And I don't want to go too far on that soapbox, but I do believe that's true. And I think if there was some kind of equalizer there, I think we'd all be a lot happier if there was equanimity across the board, if everybody had food, if everybody had shelter, if everybody had the opportunity to be educated, and it wasn't this battle for power and money and objects, but that's not the world we live in. So as you said earlier, it's a choice. It's all a choice. How do you want to live your life? How do you want to treat others? How do you want to treat your pets and animals? It's really what it comes down to.
Well, and also there is, for instance, I'm saying this on a Apple phone, and I know that, for instance, in China, Apple gets technology from Foxconn, where the workers are treated terribly, and of course this feeds in to how we treat animals. There's no need for that. There's no need to treat workers terribly. There's no need to make these products so that you have to upgrade. You could make a product that lasts, and so but because I'm on Apple, it seems easiest to then get another Apple when I have to, and I already know how to use it, and I kind of know how to move the information over. And that's just one example of, they don't make it easy. If you go out certain places, it can still be hard to get food that's animal free, especially if you don't have the discipline of some people I know who are wonderful. But I, like a lot of people, I'm kind of weak when it comes to food. I can be weak when it comes to a lot of things. We're just how many of us use a car? And of course, there, I believe it's the car and the rubber and the oil companies, at least three of the types of companies, they were convicted of conspiracy for buying up the trolley lines and tearing them up. So, it's all just to what a degree. I can definitely look at oneself in the mirror, but then you have the severe sociopaths and psychopaths and psychopathic systems that they need to be addressed first. But I'm always aware of my own complicity.
Yeah. That's why I said I don't stand on my soapbox, because I have been vegetarian for a while, and I'm mostly pescatarian. Do I eat meat? Yes, occasionally. I want that ribeye, go get it. So I rationalize it. Well, it's grass fed and it's humanely, it's part of the issue also. Like my youngest cub, they are they're vegan. They've been vegan for a very long time, and I totally respect that. They don't wear leather. They don't do anything in their consciousness to harm animals in any way, shape, or form. And I have a lot of respect for that. I do my best. I mean, I love leather. I have not bought leather just really even for my kid, whether they know that or not. Like I got some really groovy shoes they're like some, I don't know what, probably not the best product either, because it's probably made out of some kind of plastic, which that's a whole nother issue, all the plastic. But it's not killing an animal to make a leather product, or leather belts and stuff. Yeah, there's things we could definitely do, and I am just as complicit as well. I'm aware of it, which sometimes I'm like, is that even worse? I'm aware of it, but I'm still doing it to a degree. So I think the answer is finding a happy, healthy balance. But again, just coming full circle, going back to treat animals, treat people, treat the way you want to be treated. Do you want to be treated like these animals are being treated in these death camps? I don't think so. So there are things we could do about it.
No, of course, and again, I mean that comes down to there's so much corruption and power, because
Yeah.
most people, at least in this country, are against factory farms. They could be gone overnight if the people had their say. But
If
you know,
enough people had their say, yeah, because people are
yeah.
still buying a lot of the products. I mean, I remember reading that book, Diet for a New America. I think it was Robbins, and I was like horrified after that. I think it's fairly common knowledge. I mean, with chickens, you get the most productivity out of the eggs and out of the meat and all. They're it's Clockwork Orange. They're torturing them. The lights are on like 20 hours a day. They don't let them sleep. They force them with the hormones and steroids, whatever they're using to get with beef, same thing. To get the most product that they can to go to market to sell it. It's like what business is McDonald's in? People say, well, burgers. No, they're not in the business of burgers. They're in the business of land. If you look, I mean, they Geo look at every piece of land that just makes sense, whether it's off a exit ramp. I mean, there's billions. They say billions. Now it's trillions of burgers sold. They're in the business of land, so of real estate. So if you look at how much real estate they actually own, how much resources is dedicated to even just one cow. Okay, to feed that cow, to get it to market, it's insane. It's absolutely insane how much clear cutting they do, how much water they use to go to market, so we could have trillions of burgers under the golden arches. But we're supporting it because we keep going there. So yeah, it's a
Yeah.
choice.
Well, I just go to steal the Wi-Fi.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, but I mean, there is a problem because meat and dairy is so subsidized. So and so are some other cheaper food products. So in order to buy kinder, or to buy better for yourself, it's out of reach for so many people.
Yes.
And again, that's a matter of policy.
Yes, it is a matter of policy, and it's really unfortunate, and it's counterintuitive, because the healthier we eat, the less we're going to be at the doctor, the less we're going to need medical care, the less we're going to be prescribed pharma drugs. But this is all part of that system that keeps the wheel turning, to keep the consumerism and the poor health going. So that chain of command could stay in business. So it is a choice. Yeah. So what would you like to leave the audience with, we'll say on a positive note to a degree? This is a very serious topic. So, I mean, we're getting heavy, but people really need to be aware of these things if they're not already. So, but we'll see if we could end on a positive note.
Well, gee, well, I will mention, because you were speaking earlier about masculinity, I wrote the foreword to, it's an anniversary of Carol J. Adams' The Sexual Politics of Meat. And I can't remember if it was the 15th or the 20th or the 25th, but it was one of this book that keeps coming out. It has been translated in so many languages around the globe. And anyway, it just speaks to a lot of what you were saying. The Sexual Politics of Meat by Carol J. Adams. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. You just, when I interviewed Nina for the interview that we worked on together, that, she just said that, you have to keep shining a light on what's going on, even though it's horrific. But it's only by, paying attention to it and taking action against it that you can get it to stop. And Nina also said that if you find out about something horrific going on, that you feel better if you can do something about it. So that could be visiting your representative, could be going to a protest, signing a petition, writing a letter, making a phone call, participating in a boycott. There are so many ways, and we can find each other now. And so it's, I guess it's, you ask yourself what life is about, and it's good to see the truth of what's going on and what needs fixing. And there's so much, that you try to make it better. And, so I think that's more fun as well as fulfilling in the long run than avoiding it.
Yeah.
And you meet some nice people along the way, like you.
Absolutely. Likewise. Yeah. Yeah. I always think of like, I'll paraphrase Mother Teresa, that you don't have to do like great things. You do small things with great love. And it really makes such a big difference, in all the things that we're talking about here, just have that love in your heart, and just go from there, really. I mean, I think that it really is that simple, because if you love yourself, you have respect for yourself, you treat yourself, with dignity, with impeccability, with integrity. If you love your neighbor, same thing. If you love all the creatures, world's going to be very different, just like that. So, yeah.
Well, Waska, let me just ask you: do you ever have trouble with loving your neighbor, or people? And how do you deal with that?
Good question. Well, we're out of time. That's a great question, and I absolutely do. And again, it's the yin and the yang. You have to have the balance. You don't have the light without the dark. You don't have the love without the fear. So I get tweaked sometimes, and I have to remind myself, okay, everyone's entitled to their own opinion, as long as they're not doing something like horrific, torturing, hurting someone else, where I will stand up and say or do something about it. But I remind myself that it's everyone's entitled to their own feelings, and I'm not here to fix anybody. I'm not here to tell anybody, what they should or shouldn't be doing. One of my mentors and teachers, Ocean Fastwolf, said a long time ago, because I've been doing like men's work, spiritual, mentoring for a long time with my kids and with other men. And she's like, Waska, you're beating your head against the rock, so to speak. You're trying to save all these guys. It's like, if they're not awake, if they're not aware, give them a pillow, let them go back to sleep. If and when they're ready, you'll be there for them, to help them, to mentor them, to be a brother to them. But don't waste your time and your energy. And she was right, because I was draining myself. So I still feel the same way, to answer your question. If people are awake and aware, like yourself, I love having these conversations. I think it elevates, the vibration for everybody. Hopefully, even if one person that's watching this says, hey, you know what, that was a really good point. I'm going to write a letter. I'm going to do this. I'm going to, whatever it is to help the situation. I think that's really all we could do as individuals, is put it out there and walk our talk. So I do my best to walk my talk. Am I always the most gracious, the most humble, the most quiet? No. Sometimes I do say stuff and I get tweaked. And if I do rub somebody the wrong way and I think it was uncalled for, I will apologize. But also I stand very strongly on issues like this. If someone some animal, some person is being abused, you're going to hear me, and you might feel me too, So I think it's important to stand up and advocate for those who can't do it for themselves. Yeah.
Well, and you just seem like you've, been a great father,
Thank you.
and that it stresses the importance of humane education because, people grow up in all kinds of circumstances, and it's good that culturally that we fight all this, kind of I, me, mine mentality one way or another, or even the idea that it's fun to be cruel, which can come out in various ways. And so I think it's humane education to make that, available to all children at a young age. That's so important.
That's such a great point because children learn from their environment, from their peers, from their parents, from their coaches, from their spiritual advisors. So I don't think any kid is born being mean or would hurt an animal or wants to light ants on fire or whatever. It's something you saw in the media. It's something that you heard from maybe your father saying. Not pointing fingers at anybody. I'm just using these as examples. If kids are in a nurturing, healthy, happy home and feeling love and taught, hey, this is how we treat each other here. Yeah, they're kids. They're going to test. We're human beings, But if there's consequences for being cruel, you're going to learn as a kid, and I believe you'll grow up. So thank you for that acknowledgement. My kids, I mean, honestly, that is my main impetus in life. To be the best influence I can for them and for other youth and guys that I mentor. I hold myself to the same standard. So sometimes I'm pretty hard on people because I'm hard on myself. I mean, if you have awareness, there's no going back. I mean, ignorance is bliss. It really is. Once you're aware of these things, you can't go backwards. You're now need to be responsible. You need to be proactive. And if you're not, I think for me anyway, I feel that I'm like, okay, I know this is not right. I have to be different in this situation or do something to help. And I think that's kind of what it's all about. We're here to spread love and to be in service. And I teach the guys that all the time. Even if you perceive that you have very little to nothing, we all have something. Like Ocean, again, my mentor would say, we all have something. We have our breath. We have our saliva. So she used that as like, you could offer your DNA through your saliva back to taking part of a plant. You never take the whole plant, medicinal plants or whatever it is. You take a piece of that plant, and if you have nothing else, in native tradition, they use tobacco. They would do a tobacco offering and offer it back to the earth, to the plant, to the medicine, to Great Spirit. You could offer your saliva, your spit, your DNA. And we did that in a garden. We used to plant a garden back on Long Island with my kids. I'm like, we would plant seeds, and I'm like, let's give gratitude, and they loved it. Like, we're spitting in the hole, but it was like, let's offer some of ourselves here. We're gonna be getting this from the earth, and so we give thanks to the earth and for the rain and for Gaia, for all of the elements that is going to support us, and we're going to watch this grow because we're going to nurture it, and then we're going to eat it. And food, as we're talking about, has energy. So it's just like me saying to you, Nellie, you look beautiful today. I so enjoy your company. You're a wonderful, caring, compassionate woman. How does that make you feel?
Hey, that's a nice.
Hey, that's a nice. As a verse two, which I don't even want to say, but if I start saying negative things to you, it's not going to feel so good, And we're vibrational, energetic beings that are affected by this. And I could tell you stories from when I was a little boy that are still affecting me today. Somebody that said things to me that really hurt my feelings. So we have to really be conscious and careful of how we speak to people also, and it's the same thing, putting our attentions into food. So, saying a prayer of gratitude, and it's not denominational or anything else. I believe it's more energetic, and I taught my kids this. We used to do like a mudra over our food to help and to heal. And it's basically, and I just say it now, it's offering gratitude from the beginning, the existence of that seed, whether it was blown in the wind or somebody intentionally put it in the ground, to the rainwater, to the people who nourished that seed to grow, and whoever harvested, and all of the journey to get it to, be harvested and put to our table, or you go to a restaurant, the person that's serving it, hey, helping to heal. I offered this person, gratitude and love, because what if they're having a shitty day and their negativity is going into that food? So So, to me, it's like it's a win-win. It doesn't hurt anything, and starting the day with gratitude to me is really the most important thing.
Yeah. No, that's so true. And people say words don't matter, but they can be the biggest thing in their life.
Are you familiar with Dr. Masaru Emoto, his work
No.
with crystals? So he passed a few years ago. So he took he would freeze water, and he did many, many experiments. So it's not woo-woo, it's scientifically proven. So he would freeze the water, even in lakes, and help clear out pollution in lakes. So just is simply positive vibrations towards the water or negative vibrations towards the water. So, and I did this even on a fish tank. So I write on the bottom of my water bottles like love, gratitude, peace, harmony, and as averse to like hate, using negative terminology, or playing classical music as averse to like hate music, like with curse words and things like that. He would freeze the water after doing this, and you'd have beautiful asymmetrical patterns, like gorgeous, crystals from the positivity, and the opposite, asymmetrical, distorted, disjointed, fragmented patterns from the hate music and the negative terms and all. And it's incredible. So this is proven scientifically. It wasn't a fluke. We're anywhere from 90 something percent to down to 60, we'll say, percent water. It depends how old we are and how much we dehydrate. We're water crystals. We are programmable crystals. So just like I said before, when I say something pleasant and nice and affirming to you, it feels good. When I throw daggers at you and have negativity and hate in my eyes, you're going to feel that also. So comes back to full circle what we're talking about. How do we treat each other? How do we want to be treated? It affects our health. So yeah, be the change you want to see in the world.
God, yeah. And they find even with plants that they respond to anger.
Yeah.
We're affecting everybody. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this has been a beautiful conversation. Is there anything left unsaid you want to share with the peeps?
I think that just about sums it up.
All right. Well, I really appreciate you joining me today and sharing your wisdom and stories and all the great work that you're doing.
Well, thank you so much, Waska. And you. This is a treat.
Yeah, thank you. So Nellie's contact information will be in the show notes, and also the video that we did. I'll put the link in there so people could check that out, and different ways that people could connect and connect with you and connect with the organizations to help this cause. So so once again, thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
Yeah, and let us continue to illuminate our paths with loving kindness.
Oh, yes. And wear clean socks.
That's a good note to end on. Wear clean socks.
Okay.
Visit IlluminatedWarrior.com if you'd like to go deeper and find out more about what's available within the Illuminated Warrior Men's Transformational Community. Tune in next time for more candid conversations for men and women about men on the Way of the Illuminated Warrior Talk Show. Until next time, illuminate your path with loving kindness.